what's happening, Mr. Bill Spohn? How are you today?
I'm doing great, Dave Cooper. How are you?
And I'm doing amazing. So awesome to have you back on the show. It has been a couple years, hasn't it?
It has. I want to say it was 2020, like the fall, early fall 2020, maybe 3 years ago exactly, almost.
3 years ago exactly, you were building a modular home that was at the peak of high performance.
And also at the peak of COVID too, by the time
COVID,
the house came to be finished and things like that. So, yeah, we got moved in November 2020. The house was actually built in 2019.
Yeah,
but it was finished, and because of COVID, it slowed things down. So we didn't get in until the right around 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I know I said this before the show. Is it everything you dreamed of? Did it turn out the way you wanted it to turn out?
I think it did. Really. It's, single floor living, age in place.
Yeah.
It's got a tremendous amount of garage space, lots of basement space, very bright and sunny. We don't run lights most of the day because of southward facing view and so much window area. And with the improved air quality, air tightness and an ERV, I just think we got it made.
Now, and so how many squares is this house, square feet?
2,900 on 2 floors, and then 1,600 in a conditioned basement.
And if I recall, and I may get this wrong, you were doing all of that with like 1.5 tons of
2 tons.
2 tons.
Yeah. Of a 2-ton ducted heat pump system. And just sort of like managing the air leakage, managing the sunlight, all that kind of stuff. So we're like, respecting nature, I like to say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's great. And like you were just saying, you have your landscaping in, you got your little oasis going, and you have, I'm hoping, very little to no electric bills.
Right. Yeah. We actually, I haven't finished the check charting for 2022, but in 2021, net zero. We actually had a small surplus that we put back to the grid over the course of the year. So again, for the international audience that you draw,
I do.
We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're US DOE climate zone 5, which means we do get winters. We did get last year down to, I think, around -9 Fahrenheit with 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I'll say the house didn't keep up. The systems did not keep up. We had to bundle up a little bit, use a little bit of electric space heat, but sort of like my profile or my knowledge in HVAC says that's okay. You want 2 or 3 days a year where you don't keep up with max conditions. Otherwise, you design a system that doesn't work for the most of the year, for the bulk of the year. So you want like 330 days of everything's great, but you want a few days where you're at the edges of performance. That kind of sounds weird, like everybody wants, their perfect home performance, but that's really the way you should design, is to be on the beyond the limits for a few days a year.
So what does it actually do by being like right at the limits where you're pushing the system? Like, what good does that do?
It means that when it's running most of the time, it's running efficiently. So if you oversize a system to take care of those extreme conditions of either heating or cooling, you're going to have irregular temperatures most of the time, or an energy efficiency or a decline in energy efficiency or waste for a lot of the year. Things like, like our system runs, it's actually good for it when it reaches near that peak. It may be running 24/7. Or because it's an inverter system, it can actually throttle down and run down to like 25% capacity when the load isn't that great. So you really want, in my mind, the ideal is to have the heating and cooling not be noticeable. It's just, it's nice. You just feel comfortable. And you get that by having a system that can modulate with the temperatures, as well as having the right kind of wall structure that gives you good or mean radiant temperatures. You don't want the walls to be super cold or super warm. That makes your body very uncomfortable. That's like a human factors consideration.
Yeah, for sure. So you're in the tool world, TruTech Tools. You're also working with another company, Duckling. We're going to talk about that as well, which is also another tool-based system, which I think is great. How important, when you were designing your house and building your house, were the tools that you're using and the quality of the tools? Because that's what you're known for, is the quality of the testing equipment that you offer, which gives you the highest accuracy ratings you can get, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it's really, part of it is part of the tool is like your brain and the
Yeah.
process you use. So you can have great tools, but if you're not using a correct process, you know, digest the information correctly. So
Right.
I would say one of the tools we used was a design load calculation,
Hmm.
which is actually an offline software tool, but you take the structure of the house, where it's put on the site, what's around it, what the environment is, and you figure out what those heating and cooling loads are going to be. And then you get some parameters that come out. Of course, the typical construction parameters, but also the air leakage, which is a
Right.
huge one to affect both air quality, but mostly comfort and energy usage. So to assess the air leakage, you need to do what's called a blower door test. Being this is BS Friday, and BS doesn't mean my name, but it means building science.
Right.
Your listeners have probably heard about blower door testing. So we had to do that blower door test after the fact, after the
Yep.
house was assembled on site,
Right.
and then go looking for some opportunities to improve that score. But we had a target score in mind when we did the design.
Hmm.
Um, and then the installation of the HVAC system that requires the proper tools, the proper process, to use the right tools to form, to shape, to connect the lines, to evacuate the system before you release the charge into it, to position the unit correctly outside, so it's it can interact with nature, and the outdoor unit can do those kind of things. And then also, like, respect, like, even things like wrapping the ducts that are going to have cold air coming in from
Right.
the ERV in
Yep.
this weather into a not a humid, but a humidified basement, and then getting water leakage and dripping because you don't have the ducts sealed right. You have those hard metal surfaces, the cold 10-degree outdoor air, and even if it's 60 degrees and 50% humidity inside, it'll still do condensation. Then you
Yeah.
get durability issues. So
Right. Right.
a lot of things you have to, like, interacting features in the design. And then we also did some thermal imaging afterwards, after the blower door test,
Hmm.
waited for some nice cold days to look and see the way we built the house which is in the line of passive house, but it's
Right.
not a passive house, to see if that sort of that outward part of the insulation was 1.5 inches of EPS on the outside wall, to make sure that that diminished the thermal bridging, so we didn't get the heat conducting in and out of the house. So there were a lot of tools are used. I'd say, more of them after the fact, than during construction. But we had in mind what we needed to hit, what targets we need to hit, to measure them after the fact.
What would you say is the most important thing for somebody to do in building a house, Bill? Not everybody has access to the
Yeah.
knowledge you have, the tools that you have. And so I guess that would be the first thing. What's the most important thing if they're going to talk to the builder, say this, if you do anything on my house, this is the one thing that I want you to do. And then we can talk about how do you get them to do it, and how do you train them, or how do they become educated on it?
If I had to say one thing,
Yeah.
it's to understand how to build an airtight house.
Is it hard?
No, it's not really hard.
Yeah.
It's detailed.
Right.
That's all it is. It's not hard. People are doing it. There's a builder, I'm going to throw his name out there, Ed Kiesel, who's in
Mhm.
Cleveland. He transformed from being a typical builder to a very detailed builder, and he makes very airtight houses that the customers are very comfortable in, have very low energy bills, using standard construction materials, but he just pays attention to the detail. I would have had him build my house if he could have, but I was too far away. So I don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
I always use him as an example that it doesn't take superhuman skill. It just takes paying attention to detail. And I will say, like, even when our house being built in the factory in Strattonville, the SMI factory, we went up a couple times to watch our baby being built. And I noticed a couple things, and I pointed out, like, insulation over here, air sealing by an outlet that was on an exterior wall. Hey, that's got to be sealed.
Right.
And you can do it in the factory so easily. Make sure the insulation isn't jammed into the interstitial spaces. It's got to be fluffed out. These kind of things. And I actually, drew from my resources and said, pay attention to these. I think there's a lot available. And sometimes I'd say builders and their customers get trapped with deadlines and don't think about the fact that they're building something that's going to last 30, 40, 50, 60 years and continue to either keep them comfortable, maybe marginally, and consume energy. So it's sort of like, to me, it's like worth the wait to do it just a little bit better. And the resources are all there and available. There's things like Building Science Corporation, Joe Stiebrick, tremendous resources on his website, all free of charge. I mean, he does run courses that you can attend, and those are very entertaining, and Building Science Summer Camp and that kind of thing. But there's no lack of information. There's no excuse now for not being informed how to build better.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody that said, you know what, I want to start a mobile training thing just to teach people how to do air barriers, like where we get a nonprofit, and all we do is stop at job sites, talk to the general contractor and say, hey, would you like us to do some free training on the job while you're here today to show you guys how you can do it better? I was like, that's kind of a brilliant idea. It's kind of a homegrown way of doing it because you and you do a podcast. I do my vlog and live shows and travel a lot. We do this all day long, but the everybody else out there is actually putting in the hours trying to, put food on the table.
And I've say that, I've come, and part of it comes through organizations I'm dealing with, and my podcast. I do another one called Res Talk for the ResNet, which is the Home Energy Rating Network. And I encountered through them, Habitat for Humanity is building very low energy or net zero homes. So, I mean, that can be done with, Habitat for Humanity largely uses unskilled volunteer workers.
Right.
So, I mean, take it down to that level. It can be done. And then the Building Performance Association, I'm on the board for that. They're doing a lot of training for weatherization in the upcoming funds that'll be dispersed through the Inflation Reduction Act to make sure that there's a workforce ready to put the available monies to use to do good work for people.
Yeah, for sure. So, Bill, you made your life around high-tech tools for performance rating. You become a modular expert because you put so much time into building your house and everything you got going there. Well, listen, you got 10,000 hours in that house by now for sure.
Yeah, true. Okay, there we go.
Right. And lessons learned and things you probably would have done better. When you built your house, were there any lessons learned?
Okay. Dave turned into max headroom there for a couple minutes. He's coming back on right now. I'll wait for him. Well, while we're waiting, I think we're still alive. I'll just keep talking. Some of the lessons learned, I would say, are in line with one thing is we didn't pay attention to acoustics beforehand, and we designed, especially in our living room, a lot of flat surfaces, window glass, and I don't know if it's me, but I'm sensitive to sort of like noise. It's a little bit noisier than I expected. Just even like, clattering of things on hard surfaces in the kitchen that gets, it's open concept into the living room, into the dining room. And that's sort of like a little nitpicky detail, but that people probably don't pay attention to a lot, but the acoustics were one thing. The other thing I think is the ability to have a little bit more finer control over the air tightness. I had a goal in mind of getting to 1 air change per hour at 50 pascals, 1 ACH 50, for those of you familiar with the term. And we actually, we ended up at 1.1, but like a passive house would have been 0.6, or, almost half of where we ended up. I think we could have hit that point and we probably would have had a little bit better, but part of it was, you have to sort of like deal with the hand you're dealt. And the hand we were dealt was, working with a factory that was, I guess, somewhat new to building high performance homes. So although they're getting much better at it now, and also, the materials, what you could use in the factory. So I'm just going to check here and see if Dave's sending me any messages on this, because this has become the Bill Spohn show. And I'm going to see if I can reach him somehow. I wish I had like Jeopardy music or something for you. Maybe you encountered a power outage or something. Your mic's off. I don't know if you can hear me.
How about now? Can you hear?
No, I can. Yeah.
All right. Just before the show, I said something's funny going on with this whole setup. The whole thing shut down again. Sorry about that. So, did you entertain everybody while I was gone?
I did. I did 3 card tricks, and I told a long philosophically based story.
Excellent. So we were talking about before I got so rudely cut off by this system, the what were your lessons learned? What was the one big thing? And I don't know if you ended up going into that conversation.
I did. I picked up where you left off there, and it was we didn't pay attention to acoustics.
Yeah.
And that bothers me a little bit, but I think that can be something that's treated after the fact, because we have a lot of large flat surfaces around. Also, I think you're maybe not on the mic you think you're on.
Yeah, I know I'm not.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing would be just a little more attention to detail and get us to an even better air leakage number, closer or less than 0 air changes per hour.
Less than 0?
Yeah. We ended up at 1.1. Excuse me, not less than 0. Silly. Less than 1. We ended up at 1.1, and I was just trying to be, particular and get below that point, but it's fine.
So moving forward now, you were testing on your house. You did all the tests. You've been in it for 3 years. It has been meeting your expectations. Mm-hmm. Would you ever do it again?
Personally, we don't have the need to do it again.
Yeah.
But if, say I was 20 years younger and we wanted to move to a different area, absolutely do it again. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But personally, we don't need to do it again.
Right.
So there's no regrets.
Talk to me a little bit about TruTech Tools. Let's hop into this and let's talk about what TruTech is doing, because it's not just tools, it's also the education behind it as well.
Yeah, we're just talking about that this morning with our team. We're calling it like our recipe for success. We've been in business 16 years, going on 17 years. And I guess for a small business, that's considered success because we made it through those 5 and 10 year humps that tend to kill a lot of businesses. So we're analyzing what we do well. And a lot of it is, some people call it consultative selling. And that's funny for like a website. Like how can you be consultative? Like you brought up the screen here. Most of our business comes from walk up customers. They either know or they search for what they want. But we try to provide that consultative aspect by providing training. Like if you look under, I think under more resources. And actually,
learning.
You're learning. Sorry, thank you. So we did launch a new website at the end of July on a new platform. Same content, but I think better layout, faster response. There's a whole lot of benefits that are in there underneath that. But if you go to something like vacuum training, you click on that. Those are some of our most popular training pages where we help people understand how to take the steps necessary provide videos, provide text, and explain how to use these tools. So it starts from the why, and then we move into sharing the how, and then we help line you up with the what. All this stuff's free access. Our webinars are free. Our YouTube videos, we don't have any kind of income generated from that. Those are all free. Podcasts are free. We truly do want to see people do better work. And if they want to come back, and we offer, fair pricing, fast shipping, free shipping above $49, all those kind of elements make it really easy to buy from us too. But we really want to see people do things right.
Well, and education's hard to come by, right? Mm-hmm. And people don't have time to go and get educated because, like I said, most contractors are busy just trying to keep up with the workload and what they have. So this gives them the option to learn on their own time and have not only the resources, but the tools that they'll need to be able to do that work and know with confidence that they have a trusted source that they can ask questions to.
Yeah. And we feel like we're amongst the trusted sources. And we're like getting woven, and that was our discussion today, is getting woven into this fabric of the industry. Right. The guy who started me in podcasting, Brian Orr, started this thing, I call it, called the HVACR School, hvacrschool.com. It's a podcast, it's an app, it's a conference, it's blogging, it's downloads, it's calculators, it's tremendous. And he's invited in other content providers and creators. And we have a great time. We're going into the 5th year of a micro conference that he sponsors every year in Florida, where there's just a tremendous amount. And this whole fabric of the learning of the industry, and so much of it for free, is being built up. It's not just us. I just want to make sure that's clear. We are a part of it. And we like to promote and exchange information. But we're definitely a part of it.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so we have TruTech Tools, right? And on this, you can get everything from your heating and cooling, testing equipment. This does not sell, you don't sell any mechanical equipment yourself, though, correct?
Yeah, think of it like we sell the tools the contractor takes into the job site, takes away with them. We don't sell, except for things like that CO alarm right there, that Defender CO alarm.
Yep.
That is one thing, because we sell a few unique and hard to find items that you can't get elsewhere, or find a difficult time finding elsewhere. But the rest of those tools are things somebody would put on their truck, keep in their warehouse, that kind of thing.
And what would be your best seller?
I think it's actually it's a chemical cleaner for coils. It's a foaming chemical cleaner. I'm not sure why let's see what comes up there. By Refrigeration Technologies, Viper. That's a brand. Actually, we just found out today they made the Inc. 5000 list for the 2nd time. We made it for the 7th time this year. They made it for the 2nd time. Great company, family owned, but they make some super great chemicals to be used for the industry. And so it's the spray can version of this. Yeah. It happens to be our highest volume single item that we sell.
Very cool.
But on the other hand, we sell things that range up to $10,000 or $20,000, but we sell things that are, few dollars. So it's just a wide variety of things. The ultimate goal is trying to get contractors tooled up to do better work for their customers.
Right. And then are you guys also partnered with all these different manufacturers for training as well?
Yeah, we do. And actually, that's interesting. One of our customers in Eastern Ohio, Chad Simpson at Simpson Salute, actually started a training center for his competitors. He trains his own people and he trains his competitors. The concept is, I like to say, is like, you can't raise the bar unless you have one. Right. Which means people have to recognize a certain way, a mode of doing business. So he is out there actually running training classes for a wide variety of people, fast track training schools. So when we partnered him up with Sauerman, who's one of our combustion analyzer companies, and we actually have a live training coming up on Tuesday, which will also be streamed. It'll be part streamed, part live. So yeah, we are teaming up. We team up with Testo. We team up with Fieldpiece. We team up with Actually, one of our new employees just came back from the Energy Conservatory. It's the blower door company in Minneapolis, the blower door capital of the world, in case you didn't know.
Okay. Right.
They ran a Train the Trainer 3-day event up in Minneapolis. Great thing. We sent one of our people up there. There's just this wonderful knowledge community that continues to grow. I'm so happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, one of the other things that you got going on is another company, right, called Get Duckling.
Right. Yeah. So this came because I sort of developed a profile, besides the big nose on my face, a profile in home performance, high quality building. A guy named John Hohen, who's the CEO of the company, wanted to help contractors help their customers go all electric.
Yeah.
And when he began to realize it involved home performance and HVAC to a large extent, he invited me to join as a strategic advisor. So I've been advising them for it's about a year now, and helping them kind of connect with the market. We have 5 design partners that are working with us on a product that will help plan and sell whole home performance projects. A lot of times they end up moving into electrification. Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes it's dual fuel, or it's just, adding solar or adding EV chargers. But a lot of it surrounds the home performance. Going back to what I said earlier, having the right load calculation. Right. So yeah, here you go. That's a really good overview. But there's multiple sort of touch points in order to do the job correctly, and we feel like we can bring them together in a platform to create the proposals, provide customer education, pull in incentives and financing, especially with the utility rebates and federal and state financing coming in. And I actually helped John reach out to over 100 contractors nationwide to come up with those statistics. Those aren't numbers we just made up. Those are actually people that were surveyed, and we actually spoke with them, and some of them became design partners to help us design the product.
So walk me through how the product works. So I want to build a house. Is this for a contract?
No.
So I'm a contractor. I have a customer that wants to build a house. How do I use Duckling to help me with that client?
You wouldn't use it for new construction. So this is for existing construction.
Existing only. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's for service contractors who have customers who say, my system's 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's inefficient. Rooms are drafty. I'm not happy with this or that. Help. What can I do? So you walk in with the Duckling open on a tablet, and then you check off, okay, what are some of the trouble issues that you're having here? Okay, let's pull together and make a plan. And I'll make the plan right in front of you and give you an idea of what it's going to cost and maybe the stages that you go through.
Right.
You might not want to do everything at once. And then let's pull in your available utility rebates, your available state, federal financing, and just give you kind of a total overall picture. Now, that's not the final detail quote, but it'll get you very quickly, along with the educational resources, to help the customer understand what you can do for them, and do it like really literally in a matter of minutes.
I had to show the duck. It caught me out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, wait, there's a duck.
There's a duck walking across the screen.
I love it. Got it. So, so when can people start using Get Duckling?
Right now, we believe we'll have a minimum viable product to do the sales planning aspect in November of this year. In this, we're in the stage right now of programming and iterating with a small number of contractors. Yeah. Like we didn't design a product and put it in the market. We extensively talked and made notes from contractors, visited them, watched their sales process, went on energy audit visits with them, watched how they do sales quoting, and just looked to streamline and improve and make more efficient the process.
Yeah, very cool. Bill, what haven't we talked on just yet? Outside of your future retirement plans, what haven't we touched on that you want to make sure people really understand about yourself, TruTech, or Get Duckling?
I guess I'm just like, as my subtitle says there, I'm a chronic volunteer. My wife, often has me watch the amount of time I spend doing things. But I'm very excited. Like I have a 30-year experience in the industry,
Right.
and I have perceptions and advice, and I like giving that and sharing that. I also, in addition to the home I built, which is sort of like proving to myself and perhaps to others that you can do this, I like sharing that story. So actually next week, I'm going to be at a conference called Women in Energy. That'll be in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Oh, great.
And I'll be giving a talk on the future of energy in the home, and basically kind of like, talking about what I've done, where I think things are headed, and then helping contractors and consumers now. Consumers with the ductling product will help contractors get consumers engaged with us.
Yeah.
There's also, I like getting engaged at the local level. So the Pittsburgh realtors are actually planning an event where they're going to be going up to where my house is built. It's a modular building factory tour in just a couple weeks. So I'll be riding along at that. I'm not a speaker at it, but just riding along with it.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think modular and offsite construction in general is going to be the future here?
I really do. I think there's just so much to be gained from having the control. My ear thing's falling off. To having the control of the factory in terms of all the materials being undercover,
right?
Having supervisors and workers who are consistently doing similar tasks, having materials and tools readily available. And also, I think from a standpoint of waste and scrap, and I watched it myself, there were, various cutoffs were put into a bin, but that bin was pulled from for either my project or other projects, for reinforcement, for spacers or things like that. So versus creating so many tens of yards of waste on a construction site and then having to haul it away, I believe there's a lot of, recycling enabled from doing this.
Yeah, there definitely is. Have you seen, every time the word recycling comes up, have you seen the product, the urban machine?
No.
Imagine a robot that you can bring onto your job site as you're doing a demolition or a renovation. As you take the wood out, you can put it in the machine. It scans the wood. It pulls all the nails and screws. Then it analyzes the wood, cuts off any of the bad pieces, and then recertifies it so you can use it right away.
That's crazy.
Right?
Wow.
Urban machine. I'm like, I want the rights to that in Pittsburgh alone. I still haven't got a contract. I'm waiting on it, but we'll see.
Where did you see that?
I've had them on the show a few times, and they're going to be on stage. It looks like at IWBCC in Washington, D.C. coming up. But yeah, they just launched. I guess it's been about a year or last year sometime, and we had them launch on the show here. We had the CEO on, and it's cool stuff, man. You should check it out. Urban Machine. They're cool
Urban
people
Machine,
too.
Yeah.
The world is becoming a better place.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I always say I have faith in humanity, where, people are problem solvers.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if they have, good information, they keep their ears and their eyes open, and there's different ways to consume it, like your show and other means of consuming good information.
What is your podcast, Bill?
Oh, it's called Building HVAC Science, and there's actually a website, buildinghvacscience.com. But it's also, you can find it in any typical podcast app. And
Building HV, I'm put it up there. Science. Sure. I'm sure we can find. Oh, there it is. Building HVAC Science. Why don't we share that real quick? Give me 1 second here. I'll put it up so everybody can see that, and definitely check you out if you're trying to learn more about how to build it better and energy efficiency and understanding HVAC and air tightness and all the tools to do it. This is the podcast you want to listen to right here.
And that episode 133 just dropped today, and that's with one of the original founders of TruTech, Jim Bergman, who's gone off to build a great software platform for tools called MeasureQuick. The one before that, 132, is the Heat Pump Summit, which I think is going to be an awesome event out in Berkeley in the beginning of November. That one there with Brent Davidson, the Heat Pump Summit. So you can find out more about that. He's really trying to connect people and kind of, dispel the stigmas about using heat pumps by providing good information and training. The one right before that was a contractor that's in the Pittsburgh area, Matt Stone, who's got a company called Home Mechanics. I never knew he was here, but he is just like I would say, like one of the primo contractors I could think of. I apologize for this ear thing. I'm just gonna hold it in.
It's just a day for tech issues.
It is. I got a broken tech head. Anyway, Matt Stone, he follows the right recipe. He's got a really great process. Really humble guy. Never knew about him until I learned about him through one of your old guests, Corbett Lunsford. Corbett's got a web page where he has HVAC contractors that use science can sign up. And it goes into a list, and it's a national list. I went to the list and I said, wait, there's somebody in Pittsburgh I never knew about. So Matt Stone was the guy pulled off that list. But any listeners who are looking for contractors that use sort of like, it's not like super sciencey experimental things, but it's like doing load calculations, doing blower door tests, checking air tightness, doing correct sizing, doing correct ductwork, all those kind of things. It's really what you want. And it's what trade organizations like ACCA and others and ResNet and ANSI recommend, this quality installation. But sometimes it's hard to find because you don't know what to ask for as a consumer.
Well, yeah, I mean, and for sure. I mean, like I said, the education side of this it's out there, but it's difficult if you don't know where to find it.
Yeah. And sometimes you need examples. Like that's why I like bringing people on my podcast that are great examples. It's like, here's a person that did it, and not to challenge you, but why aren't you doing it? Why? And part of it is like Chad Simpson. It's like, well, my customers wouldn't understand it. Okay, come here. Let me help you. I'll help you learn how to help your customers understand. It'll make the whole market better for us.
Right. Well, that's awesome. All right, Bill, listen, I appreciate you coming on today and chatting with us a little bit. Sorry for all the tech issues, my end, your end. It's just one of those days.
Yeah,
I think it's Friday.
It is. Let's capstone it right now. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you. And for everybody else out there, it is Friday. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I'm Dave Cooper. Bill Spohn, make sure you check him out and check out his podcast, Building HVAC Science.com.
That's it. Thanks, Dave. Good seeing you.
Stay right there, Bill. I'll come back to you after the show. The rest of you have an awesome, awesome weekend.